These are examples of how 3D art is shifting from just being about itself to actual living examples, and it bleeds out into everything from music videos to Instagram to businesses as a whole. Projection mapping has been around forever, and it's a very interesting place in 3D art, but as of late, it's become super trendy, and it's really allowed for a ton of views to come through in a lot of different ways, and they're because of that, it's being utilized in a lot of really cool ways. So for instance, here's Zach Shinnon, and talk about this, 120 million views, and it's just so fascinating. It's so creative, it's so fun, and just as far as content's concerned, it's stellar. And of course, Zach, being the intelligent artist that he is, they doubling down and making a lot of content about projection mapping, but he didn't start here, right? He had all these different characters that he was working in before, and he switched tides because he saw the potential for this format. There's this other artist, Motion by Nick, and this is hilarious because they are basically selling ad space on their toilet, and it's so funny and so interesting, and already had multiple sponsors, and according to their last post, I think they've made a total of $50,000 with their goal of earning $1 million, which is again absurd. But as far as like format like this, right? So he's using the same type of format that Zach was using, right? So clearly set up, it's thing that they're projecting onto, right? Then it's themselves in the foreground with kind of footage that they're looking at. So the viewer immediately associates the context of this artist looking at whatever they're projecting onto, and then the device that they're using to correct the projection. And then obviously this already looks interesting. And so what it culminates to is this really satisfying art piece, right? So it's watchable, it's bingeable, and obviously the algorithm is rewarding these guys for working hard and creating a new type of format, Noodle Billion. And this is really interesting. It's obviously one follower per one noodle, right? It's just super fascinating, and they're linking their follower count directly into the art that they're creating, and that's this whole account, right? It's immediately fascinating. And as you can see, by day 7, they had 36,000 followers, right? And this was fresh, new take, but we've seen simulated noodles before, right? We've seen count up trends multiple times, but by switching the dynamic to being how many people follow them, they're instantly more followable in a way, right? You want to see them doing well. You want to follow along in the story, and it immediately relates back to you as the follower because you're engaging with them. And so it's really fascinating, this way to use 3D art as a storytelling device where we're seeing both people and the art being directly interactive. Another way was this count Jumo Colt. Now, this isn't directly 3D art, but art nonetheless, and it's really fascinating. All they're doing is linking the number of steps to get to a mystery house to their follower count, and they make it sort of this pixelated, really retro kind of art journey that they're going on, and it's so fascinating. And they reached their milestone, and then so they continued along with the story. And that element, right, you're immediately asking yourself, what kind of story would I tell in this little time window that I have? Obviously, and then on top of that, gaining followers is huge. Now they have this whole platform that's immediately baked into their account. And obviously they've started switching their content up, which I'm sure some of their followers don't entirely appreciate. But at the same time, they're already locked in to this account. They're already interested in seeing it continue and unfold and evolve. And so it's something that you can't try as an artist. And of course, you could be extremely creative with this and try all sorts of different numerical values to get followers interested in whatever story you're trying to tell. And obviously these guys, they're telling all sorts of different kinds of stories, just getting to this strange mystery house. Definitely check them out. So this is probably one of my favorite trends going on right now. And I've seen a ton of people do different things like this, but the concept is really simple. They're taking a static image and they're talking about the different subject matter within the image in order to make the story feel more alive. And granted, they're using Renaissance artwork, but a different account posting images like this would just be seen as a stock account. But take a look at this. They're going in and they're immediately attributing the little details and little nuances by talking about these images, right? And they're making full-fledged stories out of what it really is about. And that's just so exciting and so uplifting. As somebody who really appreciates art and paintings like this, it's so cool to see this account growing and people be really interested in this. And when I say growing, I mean 1.3 million followers in, I think, about 3 months. Like, it is absurd how quickly these guys have grown and just how interesting this whole concept is, right? Because think about this. We all make art, right? We all have some sort of dynamic. We all have an interest and a reason and a philosophy behind it. So if you were to add characters or just create stories within your characters, or even just simply explain why it is that you're making these types of images, you immediately feel like you're explaining a deeper message, or you immediately see your audience reacting to the reasons and the ideas behind your images. And this is a really interesting trend that I think will be really cool very quickly, because again, you can take any image that you've created and just by putting some text over it, you can explain the overall story. You don't even have to create images that are crazy stories. I would help, but by showcasing this and analyzing your own work, again, that whole goal, you can do this with your own work, because why not? And talk about it and in like the meaning, and tell us the meaning, right? And even if it's not originally for that, talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, a really cool thing going on here. And it's not just about these Renaissance paintings. It's more about creating content that's just a little different. And I think a lot of 3D artists who use characters, or artists in general who use meanings and objects and different things, could really benefit from this idea and this trend going, which is called fake ads. And it's just another name for a spec ad. Basically, spec ads have been around forever, but it goes into this overall theme of creating a show around these different investigatory animations. You're not getting paid for it, but instead of just creating animations for the sake of creating them, you give it sort of a meaning and a title, how we were just talking about with the paintings. By giving it this sort of edge, you're giving a reason for people to watch, but it also helps you to understand, if these people hired me, this is what I would do for them. And it's a really great way to get yourself out there, give yourself constraints and deadlines, and really just act more like you're really interested. Like this, there's this larger meaning to what you're creating. Again, I've talked about Brandon Leary quite a few times, but I think he's another really great example of how when you do spec work, it can ultimately lead to real client applications. And you can use your spec work to pitch real clients, especially if the spec ads do really well. It just compounds over and over again. And again, you're not changing your animation. You're not doing a better animation. You're simply giving the viewer of the content, again, of the trends that we've been talking about, a reason to engage and a reason to continue watching throughout the entire thing. And as shallow or as tough as that might seem, that's kind of what a lot of things are pointing to right now. We kind of need to take a little essence of specific content creation elements that we're seeing online and help it to propel our art forward. And so little things like changing the idea of a spec ad to a fake ad is just something, again, really small that could help you tremendously down the line. Another really interesting way to utilize trends and different elements that help move your stories along, because again, that's kind of the thesis of what we've been talking about, is imbuing meaning in your animations, is motion capture. And that's thanks to this week's sponsor, Rococo Motion Capture. This artist was able to really successfully capture motion, facial dynamics, and basically act out this entire animation and giving it life and imbuing all this meaning into it. I think they said that they did this on a Saturday or something. Then it was really, there's just so much story here. There's so much that they've given to this dynamic animation that they've made. And so when you're considering different ways to enhance your stories, to tell better stories, consider something like bigger tools and things that can make it ultimately faster and easier for you, like Rococo Motion Capture. This next effect I haven't seen anybody talk about, and I really like it because it's very interesting and surreal. So again, I'm calling this effect the drone view effect because I've seen it a lot. And here you see James Cho using it in their recent collaboration with Blackpink in the music video Go, and it's really brilliant. Right here, you see the camera kind of flies out at you. Here's another example with Alvin, who was actually on the Blackpink Go music video. But you see the camera isn't static. It's moving around like a drone. And it's just really fascinating trend because it's combining all these different aspects that we know and enjoy, but it's in product films and title sequences. Here, you see it used much more slowly in the Young Sherlock opening title sequences, but it's still drone, right? We're slowly twisting and turning, and it's almost surreal and hypnotic in a way that this trend just kind of like grabs you and like pulls you in so that you can't look away. So you could use this in your motion design or any animations that you have going on in order to create a better sense of dynamicism. And it's really just a change of the view angle, right? And how we kind of move through everything. I personally am guilty of using linear static shots, and this trend right now is just an easy way to get things going. And obviously it's different, right? Typically trends are effect based. They go on objects, they go on people, they're liquid sims, they're smoke sims, they're Houdini based, all these different things. But this trend, by using drone view, is actually not hard. It's not based on anything crazy. It's simply a change in the way in which we kind of show the product or the animation to the viewer. So this is definitely one to try. And so to put a cap on things, to end it all, the big thing is to, one, imbue some meaning in your artwork. Why are you creating in the first place? Why should we care as the viewer? And it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be some personality, some huge identity shift. The overall thing that you can just give online is a small meaning, whether it's a fake ad, a trend, walking to a mysterious house. There's all these different elements that you can utilize to better support your own artwork. And again, I'm talking a lot about 3D art, but this could be seen all over the place. And these trends are helpful to you by noticing these different ideas and these different things that you can utilize over a period of time to inevitably cultivate a better understanding of the content language that everyone's already speaking online. And again, as visual artists, we have the upper hand. We have this built-in advantage to gaining more traction and more attention. And so just by flipping some of the core ideas of what you're already trying to do, you can harness a lot of that power to make it something bigger, make it something more exciting. So definitely try it out. Leave a comment about what you've seen, what you've heard, and let me know if there's something you want me to talk about. And I would love to hear about what you guys have seen so far. Thanks again, and I will see you next week.